Good morning, everybody. Right, to start with today, I want you to take one of your hands and spread the fingers out and place it face down on a flat surface, like this. Now, once you've done that, I want you to lift your ring finger, this one, off the table by itself, keeping the rest of your hand flat on the table. So just lift the ring finger up. It's easy enough, you can lift it a bit, right? Now, once you've done that, I want you to take your hand again and I want you to tuck your middle finger under like this and put your hand back flat on the table. And then, once you've done that, try and lift your ring finger off the table by itself again. Can you do it? It's quite tricky now, isn't it? See, some things that sound really simple and you feel like you should be able to do are actually a lot harder than they look. It's like when someone when someone asks you to lick the point of your elbow. I don't know if anyone's ever done that. It doesn't seem that far away. Your point of your elbow doesn't seem that hard, but I bet you can't do it. Now, in this series, we've been looking at crossroads, and okay, I'm going to have to stop you there. Stop trying to lick your elbow. It's not going to happen. Stop. Stop. I see you. But no, we've been looking at crossroads and what we should do when we come across them. As Jeremiah writes in the verse we're basing this series around, stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths, ask where the good way is, and walk in it. Now that sounds quite straightforward. Essentially, take a breath, look to the one who has the answers, ask where to go, do what he says. But sometimes the simplest sounding things are not as easy as they seem. Now, we're covering ask today, a word that pops up twice in the verse. Ask for the ancient paths, ask where the good way is. And I feel like in the process of stand, look, ask, and walk, this is the point where a lot of us fall down. We might realise we're at a crossroads, and from the news this week, I think we can likely agree we're once again at one. And we might pause to figure out what to do, so we've done stand. Maybe we've weighed up our options, and if we're really good, we'll decide that we're going to turn to God for help. So, we've looked for potential paths ahead, and we're looking to God. Look, tick. And then we come to ask. Now, I don't know about you, but when it comes to ask, I tend to run into one of two problems. The first problem is that by the time I ask God what to do, I've often come up with my own preference already. I've stood at the crossroads, I've had a look, and I've already decided which way I want to go. And then I ask completely the wrong question. Instead of Jeremiah's version of where is the good way, my question is more like, I'm going this way, right? I'm basically asking God to confirm that my way is the best way because I already think it is. Now, I'll come back to this problem at the end of the talk today because I want to focus now on the second problem that often comes up with ask. What happens when we don't get an answer? What happens when we really do want God's guidance and we don't hear it or hear it clearly? How does that make us feel? Does it make us feel lost or confused? We might feel like we've failed, like every option in front of us is a dead end, and then we start questioning every decision that brought us to this point. Maybe we even think we don't deserve an answer. Now, so my first main point of today is to really encourage everyone against that feeling because it isn't true. It fundamentally is not true. God answers us all at the right time, in the right way. But it's His time and His way. I totally get that feeling of uncertainty and confusion. With the world as it is and the pandemic taking centre stage in our lives once again, we don't know if we're making good decisions or bad decisions, if we're being too careful or too careless. Every move we make is one we immediately look back on and think, was that right? Should I have gone the other way? Every crossroads we're walking through just leads us straight into another one until we feel like we're going around in circles. And so when we don't get a clear answer, when we don't hear a clear answer, it's really easy to think that we've failed. But it isn't that simple. Because God knows the bigger picture that we can't possibly see. He knows the perfect time and the perfect way to answer and to guide. In the meantime, we really have to rest on his promises. Like this one: ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. See, don't assume that because things feel chaotic that you're failing. Don't assume that because you're anxious, God isn't there with you. Don't think for a moment that if you don't get clear answers, it was a failed question. Keep praying and keep asking. Because even when we don't see the way to go, it's not because God doesn't love us enough to tell us. He wants the best for our lives, as we hear in the famous verse later in Jeremiah. That I think that we probably all know this one. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And a few chapters on, Jeremiah gives us another gem. Call to me and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. To bring that back to the idea of the crossroads, he's going to show us a path we never even considered. We couldn't even see when we looked by ourselves. Great and unsearchable things, great and unsearchable paths ahead in our lives. What both of those passages have in common is that God knows where we're going even when we don't. It doesn't matter that we can't see the way forward, because God does, and he will point the right way at the right time. It's this wisdom that Solomon was asking for in today's story. He wanted that wisdom to know what to do going forward, and God already knows what he should do, and he knows what we should do. We might wonder why our ring finger won't lift off the table, but when the time is right, the perfect time, God will gently straighten our other finger, and then he'll tell us to try again. He might not help us to lick our elbow, but that's probably because that was our idea, not his in the first place. God will answer. He promises to answer prayer. So we aren't failing by not getting an answer. We aren't undeserving when we don't get an answer. So let's just go back to the first problem. The first problem with ask. We have to also stop asking the wrong question. And that means we have to remove our agenda, our own preference. It means we have to release control and commit to listening to the answer. Because ask isn't just about asking, it's asking and listening. And that means shelving our ideas in favour of his, even when his way looks really tricky. Because where we might see an overgrown thin path, he sees the wide open clearing beyond it. Where we see a steep climb, he sees the view from the top. If we ask, he will guide. So today, let's take that step. I know each of us stands at a crossroads, probably many. Now is the time to take a breath, ask God what to do, humbly and openly. Time not to be caught between his way and our way. Time to let go and trust his plans for us. Amen.